Well, good evening. Our numbers are coming in through the attendee list, so our participants' numbers will go up here. So we'll give that a 30, 60 seconds to see how many people are going to join us this evening. I know that I approved some late ads to the system, so all right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's Thursday, June 4th. Hard to believe we're into June already. I guess for those of us who have been home for 70 or 80 days, it seems like this few months have gone by really quickly. But welcome to tonight's Kiwanis Let's Talk, hosted by the Michigan District of Kiwanis. I'm Sue Peterson, a member of the Michigan District of Kiwanis leadership team, as well as a member of the East Lansing and the Grand Ledge Kiwanis clubs. And I served as Kiwanis International President in 2015-2016. So with us this evening, we are honored to have the Kiwanis District of Louisiana-Mississippi-West Tennessee. Say that really quickly. Or Lamiston, as some of us like to say it. Bruce Hammatt is with us this evening, and he was recommended to us by Gary Graham, who was a governor during 2015-2016, who I know, because he has a presentation that he has put together on hunting alligators. So I am going to turn off my picture, and so that you know, as webinar attendees, you do not have any pictures, or we won't see any video or audio from me today. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask Bruce along the way, I welcome that you put them in the chat. If you also have a chance to introduce yourself in the chat, we'll know where everybody's from. And John Heathcox has already said, welcome, Bruce. Oh, we got all kinds of people coming in here now. So a lot of your friends are here with you. So I'm going to turn it over to you. If we have questions along the way, we'll bring them up. If not, we'll bring them up at the end. So take it away, Bruce.
All right. Well, thanks y'all for joining us tonight, and I appreciate the invite to come talk to you. What I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today is just a fun thing with Kiwanis. Now, I'm a wildlife biologist by training. I have my master's degree and undergraduate degrees from LSU in wildlife management. I did not do my work career in wildlife management. That was in environmental work, and I worked for the state of Louisiana as high as assistant secretary for the Department of Environmental Quality with up to 350 people. So a whole lot of work dealing with inside stuff, inside plants and environmental stuff. What I'm going to talk to you a little bit tonight about is kind of some of the fun work that I have done in the past. When I got out of high school and started up in college here at LSU, right down the street from me, I was 17 years old. I knew I wanted to be a wildlife and fisheries biologist. I love the outdoors. I love hunting. I love wildlife. So on the first day of my job, when I started for the state as a student worker, I was getting $2 an hour, and I was so excited on that first day when my boss told me to go to Sears and to get me a couple of pair of pants and a few shirts, that they were buying them. So I was going to have a new stuff, and my wife could put patches on my shirt saying that I worked for the state. Little did I know how enjoyable that time was going to be. My first job was to go out and catch complaint alligators. Now, many of y'all don't know what that is, but a complaint alligator is an alligator that's causing somebody trouble, wherever, whenever, for whatever reason, if they were having troubles with it. Now, this was back in 1972. This is prior to the Endangered Species Act. In 1972, the alligator in Louisiana, as well as the rest of the country, was endangered. Endangered meaning that it was protected. We did not have a big problem down here with them. We were already working on the environment and working to improve the situation for the alligator, but in other states it was endangered, and I put that in quotation mark again before the Endangered Species Act. The job that I had was to go around and pick up alligators that may be in somebody's swimming pool. It may be in the little bayou or the stream next to their house. but causing trouble for their little dog. Maybe it ate a dog. Anything, any reason could be there. What I would do is go out, and me and one other person who was several times my age as a 17-year-old, we would go out and we would catch the alligators and move them to another site and release them. We know that's not the thing to do now because they just go right back and cause trouble for somebody else. But at the time, that was the end thing to do. I did that for 2 years. After that, I took on other jobs and we're not catching alligators. But in that 2 years, I caught a lot of alligators. The largest one I caught at that time, now I had to catch them live. And that means a big alligator, catching them live, not hurting them. We could not hurt them at all. And it was not unusual to use that person who was complaining about it, use their little puppy as bait. Now, we didn't do anything with the dog, but that little yapping noise that the dog would do would entice the alligator to come to me. I could lasso it, jump on it, whatever it took to catch the alligator. So it went on for a little while. And then in graduate school, unbeknownst to me, one of my jobs was to go out and catch alligators. At that time, we were not catching them as complaint individuals. What we were actually doing, because they were endangered in a lot of spots, and we were trying to restock wild turkey in Louisiana, we would trade live alligators to Arkansas and Missouri and other places for alligators, live alligators for wild turkeys. And that's how that was just a process we used to help restock Louisiana with wild turkeys. Over the years, I have caught probably about 1,000 alligators live. The largest one I've ever caught was over 13 feet, but that was a wild alligator at a zoo. And alligators tend to attack anything and everything around them. A blind alligator like this one was attacking other alligators at the zoo. We had to move it. Most of the alligators I was catching were anywhere from 4 or 5 feet to about 8 feet. Okay, I'm gonna put on a little slideshow. Now you got a little bit of background. What I decided to do just a few years ago in 2016, I decided to show my grandkids what Papa used to do when he was younger and when he was going to college. So I decided to start hunting alligators. The year was 2016. Lo and behold, we have a major flooding incident here in the Baton Rouge area of Louisiana. And probably 30, 40,000 homes were flooded. The property that I had was unavailable to me until the very end of the alligator season. The alligator season is the last week of August to the last week of September. The land that I was hunting on and am hunting on right now is a wetland mitigation bank area in Baton Rouge area, just south of my home. I have a map here showing it. It's not a contiguous thing, but right now it's about 6,000 acres. At that time it was about 4,000 acres. Many of y'all don't know this area. It's right there between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, literally right outside of Baton Rouge, the city limits. The upper right-hand corner of this map is Interstate 10. The community right there is one of the highest priced subdivisions in the city or in East Baton Rouge Parish. The bottom left corner of the screen is the Mississippi River and the community of St. Gabriel. So just to give you an idea, this is right outside of town. This is what the environment looks like. This is a freshwater swamp. A freshwater swamp has a lot of vegetation in it. It's like a forest. It's just fresh water and has a lot of wildlife in it. Here's a photograph, another photograph in this area. This is a woodstark. Woodstark's not a common bird in the area, but they are around. but they will feed on the alligators, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to go out and to catch alligators. Prior to this, when I was a student worker and when I was in graduate school as my assistantship, I had to go out and catch them, get rid of them, catch them alive. This was the first time I was going to be able to go out, catch them, and actually try to make money. As I said, the flood came. The last day of the season was the only time that I was able to go out where the floodwaters came down enough. I go out and I set my hooks. Right after I set my hooks, my wife calls me up and says, Bruce, our daughter-in-law is having her third baby in Houston. We need to go right now. I had to go right back out, spend 2 or 3 hours, taking up all of my hooks. So I had to come back in. That's what I was going after right there in the middle of the picture, the elusive alligator. Now, the alligators start off at, the life cycle starts off in May or April. The male alligators will start kind of making noise in the swamp, in the marshland, bellowing, making a sound to tell the other males in the area where they're located, what's their home range, stay out of my area. Around the early part of June, they start breeding. A female alligator will get about 8 feet, that's as long as they get. And the male alligator will get much larger, very much larger. The female alligator will build a nest. You can see in this photograph a little volcano in sort of the left center part. That is actually a nest where the eggs had just come out. The female will go and kind of assist the eggs in hatching, open it up a little bit, the nest, and let the little baby alligators come out. The nest is usually anywhere from about 5 feet to 8 feet in diameter. It is made up of detritus, branches, leaves, mud, whatever is in the area. In this particular setting here, the female alligator chose a site in the swamp, kind of underneath the trees. In this situation, the temperature of that nest, which determines whether it's a male or a female baby alligator, these are probably mostly females. If the temperature inside the nest is about 86 degrees or lower, the alligators will be females. The sex of the alligator, unlike most other animals that we know of, the sex is not determined for a week or two after the egg is laid in the nest. If the temperature gets above about 93, they're all male. So if you were out in the marsh, in the sun, and the female packed a lot of detritus around there where it was really hot, then there are going to be a lot of males. If it's an environment here, they're mostly females. As I said, I wanted to make this for my grandkids. The part of the mitigation bank area, or the component that we have, is an education component. So we try to educate some of the local kids and all that. We're also tied in with LSU on this property to do wetland education, and also there's a lot of education components with this nonprofit aspect of the mitigation bank. These are 2 of my grandkids sitting down or kneeling down in front of a alligator nest. That's Gary Graham in my side-by-side there. He's a former governor, as Sue mentioned, and he's almost always on his iPhone on Facebook. He will respond to everything on Facebook. And he's our growth chair. So he's sitting there trying to build Kiwanis clubs while I'm out working. He doesn't do very much work when he's with me. He just kind of is there to protect me from the alligators. Okay, here are some of the baby alligators. the nest will usually contain anywhere from about 15 to 60 eggs. Most of those will hatch. Sometimes the females have been known to go in and actually help an egg open up once they start. The egg tooth, the little egg tooth on the baby alligator may not be able to cut through it, or the mama is impatient and she may help them get out. This is what you will find right around the nest. The young will stay around the nest. The female is not far away. The male alligators, as I said, are much larger, much more ferocious, and they, along with about every other critter in the wild down here, will eat baby alligators. So out of this 15 or 60 baby alligators that come out, you'll probably only see a few of those that will survive to adulthood. Now, I want to show you what these look like in the swamp environment here. So I have this little video.
Now to look for the gator heads in there. Hard to see them. Those are all gator heads. I'm gonna walk towards them and you can see them all move. I got one still there. One little gator head. He went.
Okay, as I said, they are food for everything. They have little teeth. You can see here, he's an earring for me. And you see my shirt there. It's a St. Patrick's Day shirt saying, "Kiss me." So my little alligator is kissing me right there. Now, these baby alligators, you can see, are pretty small. They're soft. They have extremely sharp teeth. This is my wife and one of my grandchildren holding the alligators. They will eat crawfish. They will eat spiders. They'll eat about any little thing that moves. They will actually eat. At the same time, that wood stork you saw earlier, great egrets, great blue herons, raccoons, possums, big male alligators, everything else eats baby alligators. I failed to mention, this is my wife right here. My wife, Joy. Now, she's been with me. We've been married for 46 years. So I apologize for not introducing her right off the bat.
Bruce, we have a question that came in that it's kind of in the same, was asking you how many baby alligators are in a batch, so to say, and how often does a mom have babies?
Well, it's only once a year. The babies will actually hatch. They will build the nest in June timeframe. In the latter part of August, they will be hatched. And, you know, a few of them may start the second or so week of August, and a couple of them may not hatch till in September. But they're in that time frame. The nests are about 15 to up to 60 eggs in a nest. Most of those will hatch unless a raccoon or wild pigs. We have a major wild pig issue here in Louisiana. A lot of those animals love those eggs as much as the baby alligators. So all of those things are fair game. So if they all survive in there, they will all hatch, or most of them will hatch, and pretty good success ratio on the hatching. Now, this right here is a hook that I use for actually catching the alligator. Now I'm going to show you, I think, Sue, that they can see my picture here. And if so, I've got the size of this hook. This is a very large hook. And the line that I use now is white. It's about 2,000 pound test line that I use for catching the alligators. Now, the one that's here showing on this tree is a little bit smaller. It's only about 1,000 pound test line. And I found that that is not good enough for the alligators. They will break the line, 1,000-pound test line, they will break, and they will also straighten out that hook if you get a very large one and it just gets too ornery on you. Now, the way you try to catch the alligator is you put this hook up in a bush or a tree or on a pole, and you try to bring it out of the water about 2 feet. The lower you put it towards the water, the better chance you have for a smaller gator. You want the larger gators. That's what you're going after. For baiting purposes, you usually use chicken. I've tried to use bald eagle, but chicken is the best one. Of course, I'm just kidding there. Okay, this is us actually going out and catching an alligator. Now, I am on the land. Because of some health issues for me, I really can't pull in a big gator from a boat. And so I work from the land side only. Either way is fine. It's just that my land is accessible by side-by-side equipment or a four-wheeler or a Jeep. So I much prefer doing that than getting into a boat. I wrap the line around a tree, as you can see there in front of me. And then I put the hook out there. I actually attach it to the tree with a clothespin. So it's barely held up. And the reason for that is so the alligator can actually take the hook that is baited with chicken and swallow it, and then you get them. Now here's a picture of some of the Kiwanians in town here. We have a lieutenant governor. We have a member of my club who happens to be my nephew, and also Jeff there in the middle is the on our Kiwanis District Foundation Board. And we're pulling in an alligator there. Here's another one. It takes a lot. The alligators tend to be pretty heavy. And when you're pulling them on land versus in a boat, you don't have that water to help buoy them up. So they're pretty heavy. That's me in the environment there. The pathway we have there allows us to get in pretty much in a lot of areas in our property there. Now, this is a video of how it is when you're trying to catch
go ahead,
an
Richard.
Alligator.
Bring him in.
He's hooked.
Oh, there he is. He's a small one. He's about a 12-footer. No problem there, Richard. Just bring him in. Let him go.
Now, they will do a death roll. The death roll for an alligator that's spinning around is the tool that the alligator uses for kind of dismembering their prey. Now, we know sad instances where they get human beings. Generally speaking, there's about 1 death a year in the United States from alligators. We know we just had one recently down in Florida. It's a tragic thing. Alligators only know one thing, and that's to eat. And they are the top of the food chain. Nothing bothers them once they get in. And I will tell you that that big old alligator, he's only got a brain that is extremely small. It's somewhere between a pea and a lima bean. So that's a big old alligator that may weigh 500, 600, 800 pounds. He's only got the size, a brain of a lima bean. All he knows to do is to eat. So they are extremely aggressive. Almost always the problem is that people go out and see them in the water. They think they can throw them a fish or throw them a bone or throw them a chicken. As soon as you start getting one used to coming up to people, their only idea coming up to you is for food. And if you're that food, they're more than welcome to accommodate. So you got to stay away from them. They are very dangerous. Now here's our former
Jeff,
lieutenant governor.
You're doing good.
See if he does any better on this one.
Go ahead, Jeff. You got him coming. You got him coming. He's getting ready to come up. I think he's coming towards you. Oh, there he is. Oh, he decides he didn't want to go. There he is.
Now, this is my nephew, and we'll see if he has any better luck.
Okay. Ryan's got another one. I think he's about 4 feet. So let's see what Ryan can do with this 4-footer.
I'm gonna pretend like it's.
I see he's got a lot of bubbles. He must be tired.
For dramatic effect.
He must be tired. Oh yeah, look at the drama. Brian's pull. Oh, it's a big one. Oh, it could be 3 feet. Oh, let's see what he is. Look at that. He's got 3-foot teeth.
Holy
Look at that thing. Yeah, it's a big one. Oh, Brian goes back.
Now, every time I see it, it's fascinating on these alligators. This is a big one. Now, this is about 650 pounds. And so you can imagine how difficult that is to bring in and into actually, yeah, that's the head right there. So, yeah, my wife just informed me that I have that
He
head.
has the head of that gator.
Okay, just so y'all can see, here's the head of that gator. Now you can see those teeth in there. This jaw here comes up. It's got a tremendous amount of force, and it will eat anything. I will show you in a little while that the gullet area is not that big. They do not chew any of their food. Whatever goes in has to go down whole. So they spin, tear off an arm, torso, or whatever, and swallow that.
So Bruce, I have a question.
Okay.
What type of line are you holding, and don't you need gloves?
Well, I will tell you that was maybe one of my more inexperienced. I have gone to a much heavier line that is a little bit softer, and it's 2,000 pounds. This is parachute cord, and it tends to work better. I don't wear gloves for anything, so that's just me. Everybody else should wear gloves, but I don't. Okay, now I will tell you that you have to be a macho man to be an alligator hunter. And I want to show you that this is that death roll again. It's a very good part of it. That's what I wanted to show there. Now, I tell you, you got to be a macho man. Now, one of the things that I try to do is to take kids along and teach them a lot of this stuff about the environment and how we're trying to save it and protect things. And the alligator hunting is a way that the landowner gets value out of his property. And it's very important for wildlife conservation and all that. We have a couple of million alligators. There is no shortage of alligators. But here are some kids helping me out with an alligator.
Restrap. Watch out, Bruce. Bruce is gonna get nailed. Good job, Colin. Get him, Mateus. Get him. One for more. We're gonna leave him right there. So cool. They need your strength. Pull. Oh, that's perfect. Good job, guys.
Okay, now that's just a sample of the kids having fun. Now that's a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And you know, we're out there, we're protecting. They have a relatively small. We're there to make sure they don't get in any trouble or something like that. But it is fun. It'll be something that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. Here they are with their catch. It's about an 8-foot alligator. Exciting little kids. Now, this is my oldest son. Now, he may not be the smartest son that I have, but he's trying to catch one, and he's on a dead tree on top of the alligator. I guess that y'all can kind of figure out that he's probably like me. Okay, here's his son with one of the caught alligators. When you catch an alligator, you have to process it. You have to deal with it pretty quickly. You only have a time frame of about 4 hours between catching the alligator and getting it to market. And it's extremely tough to do that. Now, you can put it in a cooler or something like that, put ice on it to buy yourself a little bit of time. But down here in the heat of the summer and in the August, September timeframe, you got to do it quickly. Now, here's a photograph of 5 alligators I caught one day. Now, all of y'all probably have seen photographs of alligators that were as big as a trailer home. A lot of times you'll see people holding out a fish in front of them and it was a small fish, but it looks big, or a rattlesnake, or whatever you're looking at. Well, here's 5 alligators here. I will tell you that 4 of the alligators are all about the same size. It's just how you position them. The 4 on the left are all about 150 pounds, give or take 30 pounds or so. I see this third one there may be a little bit smaller. The one on the far right is 650 pounds. The difference is dramatic. An 8-foot alligator, and this is one of those that you saw earlier. This is the cleaned head of one of those. Now you see those teeth in there. And this is that alligator. It's kind of hard to see the scale on the size. But let me tell you that the largest alligator there is considerably different. As you can see in this picture, it's very large. That's one of my grandsons there. And, okay, what happened? There you can see his mouth. You see the teeth there. An alligator, when it closes its mouth, you can see most of the teeth. Now, they have a lot of very large teeth, but an adult alligator will go through anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 teeth in its lifetime. Even though they only have about 80 teeth in their mouth at one time, it will go through that many. And what happens when they're ripping and tearing meat or turtles or an alligator, a young deer or whatever, they will tear off those teeth. When I'm cleaning the teeth to show the skull for the kids to look at, the tooth will fall out. There'll be another one behind it and another one behind that. They grow all the time. This is another alligator I have, just to show you kind of the size of the teeth. You can look on that and see it. Some of those teeth are 2.5, 3.5 inches long on these alligators. Now these are large alligators, but an 8-foot alligator, like a female, a large female, remember, is only 8. Their top weight is only, let's say 175 pounds or 200 pounds at best. Whereas a big one, the largest male alligator, the largest alligator found is right at 1,000 pounds, and it was 15 feet 9 inches. Now, if you Google, you'll see the largest alligator may be 19 or 20 feet, and that's sort of like the fish stories. The largest one that has ever been recorded is 15.9. When you go over to South Carolina and you go to Myrtle Beach over there and you go to some of the alligator farms over there, or here in Louisiana, you will see some very large alligators. A big alligator is a big alligator, no matter what. 600 pounds is huge, but the largest one ever was not even in Louisiana. It was in Alabama. It was not too long ago, but it was 1,000 pounds. The second largest one, just to give you an indication, was 880 pounds. So they don't get I mean, that's huge, but they don't get 2,000 pounds and all these other things. Now you see here, this is one of my other sons here in Baton Rouge, and he's got 2 kids. My granddaughter there, my only granddaughter, she's a special one.
She got brave enough to touch the teeth.
Yeah, she was brave enough to touch the teeth there. Now, when you have the alligators together, if you see this is at the market where I go to sell the alligator, and the large one there is about 650 pounds. The smaller one there is the next largest one out of that picture I had there, and that's under 200. You can see the difference. That's the 2 bellies of the alligators. It's huge. Just the meat on the jowls on that thing, maybe 40 pounds a piece. It's huge. 30 pounds for that jowl. They're huge critters. The alligator meat and the hide. Now, when I decided I wanted to go alligator hunting and actually make a little bit of money was the goal, and to do my educational things and all that. My wife's a kindergarten teacher. I love to bring projects in there. Well, when I decided to do this, I thought I was going to make a few dollars in the process. The alligator hides bottomed out and have stayed low since then. It went from a value of anywhere from $40 to $80 a foot down to $7 and $10 a foot. So I thought I was going to make money. Believe me, I haven't made any money. I probably spend as much money on my hooks, my line, my clothespins, and my chickens as I make selling the stuff. This is a small alligator hide, about a 7.5, 8 footer. This was one of the lieutenant governors made this for me, along with you see the picture in the on the right-hand side of it. And this is down at my fishing camp where I will have to go tomorrow. It's on the coast of Louisiana. Now there's a lot more alligators on the coast of Louisiana in the coastal marsh than there are in the freshwater swamps around Baton Rouge. When my wife and I go down fishing, every few days we'll go down there. It is very unusual for us not to see 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 alligators while we're fishing. We do not feed them out there. We just see them. They're all over. There's no shortage of alligators. There's actually a court case going on right now. They actually had a hearing today in California dealing with the alligator industry. It's over in California. The state of California was going to ban the sale and processing of alligator hides. That would be a major travesty to the alligator farming and alligator industry for the landowners. It would be very bad for the wildlife, for the protection of the coastal environment in Louisiana and other states. So the state of Louisiana and others have actually filed suit against the state of California because of that, because of the damage to the industry. That was my talk. I'll be glad to, Sue, if you've got some questions or something, I'll be glad to try to address any of those.
We do.
Okay.
And I've just been keeping him going here. So what's the current market?
27.
What's the current market price of an alligator?
Well, it's about, depending on the size of the alligator, it's anywhere from about $6 to $12 a foot. Now, the alligator, in reality, the hide is not the valuable part right now. The most valuable part, because of the depressed thing, and with this court case, is actually the meat. The alligator meat goes pretty high. The prime meat on an alligator is as good as any prime beef. So you may be paying $20, $30 a pound for the fillets off of the alligator. It's very good. And, you know, we've been eating it for years down here. Sue, I don't know how many times you eat it, but we eat it quite often.
I have not had any alligator lately, I can tell you that. Melanie wants to know how many fingers you have left.
I will tell you that I have all of my fingers technically.
They just don't work very well.
I have had, I think 12 or 14 operations on my fingers, literally,
And hand.
but I have not, just this last year was the first time that I was actually injured by an alligator. Out of all the times that I've caught, and like I said, I've probably caught 1,000 alligators live, never had an injury. I was much younger when I was doing that. Just this last year, I had about a 8 or a 10 foot, the tail, which is very dangerous. Everybody's looking at the head, but the tail will do as much or more damage as the teeth. You just, because everybody's watching the teeth, and the tail got me. He did one of his little death rolls and kicked me, and when he did, it hurt.
So couple people have said, so why don't you wear gloves? Is it just a preference?
I don't wear gloves for anything. I split wood. I have been a licensed arborist for 35, 40 years climbing trees. I just don't wear gloves. I do have a pair of gloves that I keep in my truck. So I just can't think of a time I've used it, but I've used them before, but not for something like an alligator. I just haven't.
Well, and the comment was they're thinking the rope would do damage as they're fighting you.
Yeah, you don't want to wrap it on your hand. You don't want to fight the alligator. If it's gonna take off, let it go, because he's much bigger than you. You're not going to hold it. The rope is tied to a tree. You need to just let it go. It's not like a fish where you have drag and all that. Just if it's too big to you saw those guys, those are adult guys, just let it go. You're not trying to wrestle the alligator at this point. You're going to bring him up and he's going to be disposed of in a minute. So you just bring it up, let him tire out. When he comes up close, then you can deal with him.
So is there a limit on how many you can catch?
Yes, I didn't go through all of that just because of time constraints. A license, you have to be licensed. You have to own the land. You have to have landowner permission. You have to have written permission. The state actually will license you. It's under the CITES, the Convention for International Trade of Endangered Species, CITES, C-I-T-E-S. A license in Louisiana is $25. I get 13 tags for that 4,000 acres of good habitat. I get 13 tags. People get as many as 1,000 tags. That means you got to catch 1,000 gators, or you try to. But it's extremely easy to get them if you own the land or you have total authority over that land. You can get the license and the tags for it through the state. It's under an international treaty, so everybody has the same thing. I have the pelt, the alligator hide. I have one right behind me. It's kind of hard to show it because it's huge. And I mean, if I can't show, I mean, the feet are as big as I can show. So the hide is much bigger. It cost me $1,100 for me to bring in one that I caught and to have the hide tanned. So it's very expensive. That's why when you go out and buy alligator boots or shoes or a jacket, it's very expensive.
Let's see here. So have you benefited from the sale of the meat? So do you sell it to the market then?
I do not do this for the money. When I clean an alligator here at the house, I give it away. When we have lieutenant governor training, and we have it here. I will usually have all the lieutenant governors and the trustees and the governor. They come over to my house and we'll have a fish meal, and I'll usually have alligator out for part of the meal. It's just a thing that we do. I'm not in it for the money. I do not make any money for it. But if you're going out and you're the landowner and you're trying to make some money, yeah, I'm doing it for the educational aspect, not for the money. You can make some money off of the meat.
Okay. Is there a season on alligators? I mean, like here we have.
Yes, the season on alligator. And of course, all of this has to be done beforehand. The season on alligator in Louisiana is the 4th week of August through the 4th week of September. Okay. So right after the eggs are hatched and you have your new stock coming in is when the season starts.
And is there a limit on the smallest alligator you can catch?
No, you get the tags. If you catch an alligator, you have to tag it. So the idea I mentioned earlier about making sure you put the bait pretty high in the water, because if you catch a 4-foot alligator and you're trying to sell a 4-foot alligator, you got to put that on it. If you are caught with a alligator without a tag, so you can't move it, once you catch it, you got to tag it right then and there. It's got to be tagged, written down in your logbook, the whole paperwork. There's a whole procedure that goes with it. Really too much to go through here, but it's all regulated very tightly.
Very tightly. So how do you prepare alligator?
Prepare it to be caught and prepare it to eat.
I do.
Okay, so Joy, how do you prepare the alligator to eat?
Well, we will either fry it or I make an alligator sauce pecan. That's just cooked down in a sauce, and then we put it over rice.
There you go. So
in Louisiana, you start with the roux.
Yeah, you start with the roux.
Well, and the question is on here is like, everybody's joking that it tastes like chicken.
It kind of does.
Well, only because we use chicken for the bait.
For the bait.
Gary said show the tooth.
Anybody have any other questions? These are great questions. What's the age of, I mean, how old do they
an alligator's age, I was going to try to pull out a tooth. I kind of re-glue them each time because they come out. The tooth is huge. I don't have a spare one right here to get to you. An alligator, the age of an alligator, or they will live about like a human.
Okay.
So, you have some that live to be 40, some that live to be 80. So they're about the same. So 80 to 90 years is about the limit.
And I know we talk about them in, the Carolinas and Louisiana. Is it a southern animal or reptile?
It is a reptile.
It is a reptile.
It is a reptile.
Michigan, so.
It is a reptile. There are very few in Michigan. It is a reptile. So the temperature of an alligator is depending on how much sun is coming down. And they will sit in the sun to get their temperature up. They do kind of hibernate in a sense, sort of like a bear in that sense. They will go into like an underwater cave or something. They're very active when it's hot, very inactive when it's cold. So if you are out there hunting and you have a cold snap, you're not going to catch anything that night because they're not moving. When it's really hot and dreary and drudgery that day, that's when you catch alligators.
Right.
And you don't want to wear gloves.
I would wear gloves, but I don't go.
That would be a smart thing. So do they try, how some animals travel in packs? Do they travel in packs, or are they independent, so to say?
No, they're pretty independent. I told you about the bellowing that they do. It's a really neat video. I probably should add it. I have a beautiful one that I did this year when we were out fishing and the alligators were just bellowing. But they will set up an area. So they're aggressive. You remember, the only thing they're interested in doing is fighting to death because they're looking to eat. So they will eat another alligator. They will eat anything and everything. they don't fight to show male dominance. They fight to the death.
Okay.
So, you know, one might run away, but that's what they're going for. They're going to win.
They're going to win.
Eat.
Yeah, exactly. There was one other question. Oh, there was our friend Sam from Canada wrote, let's see, I gotta find his comment here. The way to scare off a snake, let's see here. To escape a snake which is chasing you, you make a sharp left-hand turn because snakes can't make that turn easily. How do you escape an alligator?
I don't know that I would use that as escape from a snake either. But we have a lot of poisonous snakes here in Louisiana, and Sue, Gary Graham will tell you that, you know, we've found a lot of poisonous snakes when we're out there alligator hunting. An alligator is aggressive, but they are not, number one, they don't eat a whole lot.
Right.
They're not hungry all the time. It's just that all they know is to eat. So if something comes up, you know, they're not trying to be friendly. They're looking at you for a meal.
Right.
And so if one is coming after you, or they're not really going to go after you. They're just going for a meal. So if you put your foot over the side of the boat, or you walk in the water next to them,
splashing,
and
they think it's food.
And they think it's food, don't do that.
Right.
You know, you got to stay away from it. One of the things that we get here are people like at our fishing camp, and you're cleaning fish. And I do clean a lot of fish at my fishing camp. And I throw the bait right over in the bayou. And that's the waterway for y'all up there. Anyway, we throw it away in the bayou right there where our camp is. And the alligators are right there. So they get used to it. So
yeah, some of them have learned when they hear the electric knife, free food.
Yeah, right.
So you want to not do that. I mean,
Right.
you know.
We try not to, but we've
Yeah.
had to have some hunters down there come get the alligators at our own fishing camp. Just
Right.
The tags that I get go with the property.
Okay.
They're mine for my property. The tags that I get cannot be used at my fishing camp.
Oh, okay.
I cannot use them there. It's a very regulated thing, and it's property dependent.
Okay. Couple more questions. Do alligators have any natural predators?
When they're young, everything will eat an alligator, a baby alligator. As I said, all the birds, you know, anything that's bigger than an alligator will eat an alligator when they're young, because they're very tender. I don't have that from firsthand experience. I just want to let you know that. But yeah, the baby fried alligator is great. No, I'm just teasing. The little ones, everything will eat that. But once you get a couple of few feet, you know, you may see out in Africa, you may see a video of a lion or a leopard going after one. That's very unusual, you know, but here we don't have too many leopards.
Right.
And once they get a few feet in size, they're just eating. Nothing is eating them.
Right.
Can you outrun an alligator? Yes, I could. And I don't want to get into that.
When he was younger.
Yeah, when I was younger. They're not going to run after you. They have two ways of moving on land. Neither one of them are very fast, but the human will be able to outrun the alligator even on land. But that doesn't mean that somebody that can't move hardly at all, like me, couldn't get caught. But
Right.
I'm not going to put myself in a position, but you can get away. Once you're in the water and you don't know they're coming, or you are just silly and you think you're going to be playing with that alligator, I think, you know, when you take a look at some of the comments that were put out about this last person who was killed in Florida,
Right.
that's a sad situation, because you do not want to risk your life for,
Right.
you know, a photograph or something.
Right. What's the longest alligator you've seen personally?
It's very seldom that I bring that tape measure out there for that. The largest one I've caught was the one in the zoo, which was 13 feet, I think 1 inch. When you get above 10 feet, that's big.
Exponentially.
They grow. An 8-footer is, let's say that long. A 10-footer is like this big. They just get so much heavier and aggressive, and those are the males. And when you get a 13-footer, you're talking about a very massive animal. They do get that big, but those are the exception rather than the rule. A 10-foot alligator is very big. As I said earlier, the largest one was 15.9. I can't even fathom how big that was, but I have seen the largest ones that I have seen, in my estimation, were over there at Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. And I know the Kiwanis governor for South Carolina was supposed to be on here. I don't know if he's here, but he's got the largest ones that I've seen. Now, when you see an alligator in the water, like they are at Myrtle Beach, it tends to magnify them because of the water. And I mean, they seem to be huge. I wouldn't jump on one of those now. Yeah. I can assure you, I would not be catching alligators live right now.
Right.
When we go fishing and we see an alligator in about every spot we go fishing, they're scared of us. Our boat will be still, we'll see a head pop up, but once we start heading their way, they all go under. They don't come after us. In fact, they're afraid of us.
Afraid of us.
And they will hurt each other. Gary Graham and I have been out with our wives and seen, 2 and 3 foot, 2 and 3 footed alligators. They lose a limb because the other alligator eats it off.
All right, we got 2 last questions here. I think we can keep you all night. How long will it take an alligator to weigh over 600 pounds?
You're probably talking, they grow only a few inches to a foot a year.
Okay.
And once you start getting up to a full size, then they just start growing sideways, sort of like humans. Many of us, we just start going fat. Well, they do that too. And, but a 600 pound, is probably something like 40 years old or so. It's a long time to grow that big.
Albino. In Orlando, someone saw an albino alligator. Any in your area?
Well, there are some, there's 2 kind of phases of whiteness in alligators. The New Orleans Zoo, an albino is no pigment and with pink eyes and all. That would be, in the wild, you're not going to see one in the wild. It would be, I say you won't, it'd be extremely, extremely rare, because when they're young, something's going to eat it.
If it's white, yeah.
Because it's going to be seen. So the survivability of that one is going to be extremely rare. The New Orleans Zoo does have some, and have had several, I think they had like as many as 7 white alligators with blue eyes. It's just a melanistic phase, or another term you use for that. But it's an unusual thing, and they have it there at the zoo. And I don't know of any in the wild. The only reason they survived is that they're protected.
Protected. Well, Bruce and Joy, this has been absolutely amazing. One of the things that we talk about when we do these sessions is to do things that people hear something, who knew about alligators, right? And the information and what you've done with it, and just your education. I think that's wonderful that you're teaching others about this. And there were several people in our chat here that invited you to come visit their internet club. So
hey, listen, I would love.
I know, and I answered, so I'm not real sure, but okay.
I would love to come give it. Today was the first time I've ever given it online on Zoom or something, and I can't do some of the things. I don't know how to do it, I'm just not smart enough to do that. You remember, I'm a wildlife biologist. I'm not a smart person. So I'm out there catching alligators with no gloves. What can you expect?
Well,
I decided to do this, Sue, and it was recommended to me because I just enjoy it. It's very simple for me to do.
Right.
Well, really, that's not true. The guy who's laying had it, he wanted Bruce to get rid of the big alligator so he could take his dogs down there.
Oh.
Also, go ahead and finish. I'm sorry I interrupted.
But for Kiwanis, you know, as being governor of Kiwanis for Lamis 10, and I like how you pronounced it there, the governor of Lamis 10, you know, there's all kind of things you can do, but one of the things that everybody suggests is to have fun. And I thought that this was a way to do that. Other people suggested it to me, and I agreed. So I have done this. So when I go out to clubs, I can either talk about Kiwanis stuff or I can talk about this.
Right.
And it's not like, you know, you could get on a National Geographic thing and see, but how many times you see a 3-year-old catching an alligator?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Without gloves.
Well, you've got some amazing feedback here in the chat. We'll make sure that you get all that information. Great program, very interesting, fun, did a great job. And I think that's one of the things we'd like to show is that we do have fun in a lot of things that we do. And there's much more to being a Kiwanis member than just, you know, focusing on our Kiwanis work. Great feedback. We will take this program and it's actually already on Facebook, so it'll stay on Facebook. Feel free to share it. And then we'll actually record it and transition this recording to a YouTube video. So you can have it for that and you can share it all over the places you want to. So
now you may have Kiwanis Club say, well, we don't need him to come.
Yeah.
We'll have
So
to
you can
feed
just
him.
share yours.
right. So thank you for doing that. I want to remind everybody that next week we have Christy Emmons-Jones who is with us. She is going to make a presentation on how to be agile in a fragile world, which we're all dealing with in between pandemic and everything else that's going on in the world. And then the week after that, Margaret Lee, who is from the Ohio district, is going to talk about the food pantry that she started at her high school during her senior year. She's graduated this year, but she's going to talk about that program. And you may know the last name Lanton Lee. This is Lanton Lee's daughter, but she'll be with us in a couple of weeks to talk about that. So we're continuing to work on programs. If you have suggestions for programs, please send them my way. You can catch me on Facebook or Twitter. You can also send them to my email and the Michigan District. I track that site as well. But thank you very much for being with us, Bruce and Joy. We loved it. It was great. Thanks everybody else for being with us. We'll see you next week. And don't forget to wash your hands.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, Sue.
Bye.
Thanks.
Okay, so hang on just a minute, you guys.